Hello and welcome to this video. My name is Aston and I just completed an art project and wanted to share my process of how I made it from start to finish. I was able to get the whole thing on a time-lapse. So this is a landscape of Kinkakuji Temple in Kyoto, Japan. And my source material for this project was a picture that I took when I was visiting the temple. So I'm starting with a piece of watercolor paper, and I printed out the photo and did a transfer from the printout to the watercolor paper. And I just used pan pastel on the back of my printouts, and it makes a great transfer. Here I am giving myself a limited color palette. This is a mixed media project, but it's mostly a painting, I would say. And the paint that I used the most was my Holbein Granulating Watercolor and my Holbein Gouache Irodori. It's always really helpful to give myself a limited color palette. This is the end of the first day of working on this. I come back on another day and am further putting in the greens and the sky and the water. On my iPad is the image in color because I only have a black and white printer, and it's helpful to see the reference all the time. I think this project overall is overworked, but you know what they say, anything worth doing is worth overdoing. Oh yeah, I also used my Boku Undo shadow blacks, and that's a great paint set, similar to Kansai Tambi. Anyhow, I could have stopped, especially with the trees, a while back, and I didn't do that. I'm definitely learning about when to stop. It's interesting because I really want the bloom effect that some of these gouache paints have, but in order to get a bloom effect, you have to use a lot of water. And I also want opacity, and a lot of water and opacity just don't go together. So now I'm making another transfer of the temple onto a separate piece of mixed media paper, because this I will cut out and put into the landscape where it belongs. This is kind of the same way that I work on a portrait. I cut out pieces of paper and stack them in layers, which creates depth. And I'm doing the same thing in this landscape. So I'm just painting the shape roughly, and also there are some trees and rocks that I'll cut out individually that go in front of the temple in space. And all in all, I think this process took me about 16 hours. I did it over several days. So I made a rough cutout of the trees and the temple, and I'm just fitting them in to where they should go on the canvas, which in this case is a piece of watercolor paper. I'm using a hand fan to dry some of the many layers of paint. I think around this point I did give it a big layer of Workable Fixatif, and I think that helped some of the layers of gouache not running together. And yeah, what I'm doing is just further checking that these things are going to be in the right place. I do think that's helpful when you're working with artist gouache, just to maybe midway through give it a big layer of Workable Fixatif, and then you're less likely to disturb your underlayers. Here I am further clarifying the shapes of the trees and the temple, which is kind of a long process. It's fine detail work using tiny scissors and X-Acto blades and a pair of beauty tweezers. But I'm cutting out all the little shapes and like the railing of the balcony in the temple. And now I'm putting more detail into the temple. I'm putting in my shadow colors and just making the building more specific. I also used, after the paint's dry, a gold, there it is, Prismacolor pencil to put in the detail in the temple. I think that worked out really well. I've learned to use a straight edge tool now when I'm inking and painting. I learned that from my last mixed media landscape of Philip Johnson's Glass House. This is the end of a day with everything in its place. So now I'm working on the reflection, and what I did is I made another printout of the photo, and I cut out the whole shape of the temple and the reflection, and I use it just like a stencil, so I know where to start the reflection, and I use the same colors that I used on the temple, just a little more watery. I forgot a rock and a tree, so I'm going back to then do the rock and the tree. And now I'm gluing down the building, which took a little while, and I had to do it in phases because I had to repaint some of the green underneath. But yes, I'm bravely gluing everything that's coming out of the canvas where it needs to be, in its place, and really trying to further clarify the reflection. It was complicated because you have the reflection of the building, and then on top is the reflection of the trees that are closer to the viewer in space. Getting towards the end, taking off the tape, very exciting. Unfortunately, some of the green got through my tape barrier, so I'll fix that with just some plain white gouache. And I'm trying to make more specific the shape of the little island, so I went in with I think it's a brown matte hop pen. And yeah, just putting the finishing touches on, little details there in the roof, and making sure that my reflection is complete. And there you have it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.